Hey guys, welcome back to Asmanthikathanianas TV. If you watched my video the other day, I talked about rural sacrifice areas, and this is a real concern that I have, just looking at things going on across the United States. People don't realize how big of a deal this is and the impact that it actually has on our rural communities, our farmers and ranchers. So this is a case that I want to talk about because it's one that I can relate to. I can see where this guy is coming from. So in Francois County, Virginia, one of the supervisors there is an elected official, is a farmer, and people have been calling for an investigation into this farmer after he has agreed to sell his land to a data center that is going to be developed in Virginia. Now, for those of you who have watched my videos on this subject in the past, you probably know that Virginia is a development hub, just like Texas, for data centers. And I think that part of the reason why Virginia is a hub for data centers is because the type of data centers that are going into Virginia are serving the DC area. Very important for DC to have as much information on us as possible through artificial intelligence, which reminds me, in Pennsylvania, Amazon's building a massive data center facility. But this farmer has been stepped on and trampled on. He was against data center development, and the people who want him investigated are the people who helped, the organizations that helped put him into office, right? Because they put this guy in the office thinking he is anti-data center, and he was. His family he inherited the farm from his grandfather, who bought the land back in the 1970s. But I want you to put yourself in this farmer's shoes for a second, okay? And this describes so many farmers and ranchers across this country right now. He's in this area. Suddenly, utility easements get forced across his land. So he's got utility easements all over his farm that he doesn't want there. It takes away from why we love what we do, right? We like to be out in nature, and all of a sudden have power lines and other things running across your property. Kind of just takes away from it all. It's not all about the money, okay? It's not all about the money. It's about the environment. It's about the lifestyle. And to have people come in and destroy that is a bit upsetting. The next thing that happened is all the other farms around him, well, they sold out. They sold out to developers and people who came in and built a bunch of houses and data centers and other things going on in Virginia, because growth is hard to stop. If you live in a rural area and there's growth around you, you're not going to stop it. I mean, think about the population of rural Americans versus the population of the county seats and the big cities nearby. There's no way to stop that urban sprawl. If it's coming for you, it's coming for you. You know, there's a Leonard Skinner song about it. It's one of my favorite songs. So anyway, he's got these developments that have come in all around him. Suddenly the tax value of his property goes through the freaking roof. So yeah, he may have run for office with the intentions of saying, you know what, I need to help get control of this. We're losing our rural communities because of this. And he had overseen, you know, the approval of several data centers, and I've recognized this kind of working within our own community. If somebody submits an application, you can't deny the application. You actually have to go through the application process, and there's a bunch of people involved with approving those applications. It's not just one person. There's planning boards. There's all sorts of people that look at it. And they have to be fair about every application that comes in, because how many times have you gone and been like, well, hey, the land use code says that I can do this here, or, you know, it's not having this impact or that impact. When people buy the rights to private property, they have to respect those rights. So it's a very tough position, I think, to be in. And, you know, the way you fight back against it isn't necessarily always all that vocal. We've in our community stopped a landfill from coming in, but it didn't stop that from turning into a neighborhood. We stopped another rock quarry from being built, but it's not going to stop that from becoming a neighborhood. I mean, there's the people who buy the land and invest in it, they end up having a right to do something with it. I don't necessarily like where those are going. And the problem is that the price point of the land ends up pushing the farmers and ranchers out, because they can't afford the taxes on it, and they can't afford to grow their operation. You know, I think about that a lot. We invest our heart and soul into our own farm. We want our kids to take it over someday, but you have to have a growth plan. And if you become landlocked and the land around you becomes too expensive, eventually the best growth plan you could have for your farm or ranch is to pack up and move and try and start again somewhere else. Of course, it's getting harder and harder to do that because land, they don't make any more of it, right? So, I mean, you might be able to get a lot of money for your land and be able to relocate, but that doesn't happen as often as you would think. We lose tens of thousands of farms in this country every single year because of this type of thing going on. So he decided, you know what, I'm done. I can't handle the property valuations anymore. They're getting too high. I don't like the fact that I've got easements run across my property that I haven't been able to do anything about. I can't stop data centers from coming in because it's DC doing the data centers, right? I mean, that's you're up against all the taxpayers in the United States at that point in time. People like convenience, people like artificial intelligence, people like these data centers, believe it or not. How many of you have a smartphone? I have a grill. You can turn it on, set the temperature, walk away, not do anything about it. And then, you can plug a thermometer into it, and when the meat reaches a certain temperature, it'll buzz you on your phone. That's where we are today. And I'm not saying that that requires a data center, but that's like our concept of life and convenience has changed dramatically away from traditional ways. It's pretty scary. And the thing is a lot of us that think it's pretty scary, we all end up using that technology because we have to keep up with society. We have to keep up with the Joneses, right? And so we have to do that because our productivity has to be high enough to compete. And so it's just a round robin that I don't know what the solution is to. Like I said, Trump is putting artificial intelligence in schools now because he feels that kids need to be educated on it to keep up with the world, keep up with the Joneses, keep up with the CCP, keep up with the UN requirements of education, I guess. I don't disagree with his concept there, but I just don't like this overall revolution. I think it's going to be the end of mankind in the end, personally. That's my personal opinion. But I don't think that this guy should be investigated. Now, there's a case, and I'll do a video on this. This is interesting. There was a developer in Colorado, and he had a lot of friends in the county. The county created a specific committee that they then made him the chairman of, okay? And he went out on that committee. They had the right to use eminent domain to help the county grow, okay? So he used the committee that he was the chairman on to get eminent domain rights over a farm in Colorado. And he got it. Nobody's investigating him. I mean, people have brought up the ethical question, should the developer of the development be the chairman of the committee that's using eminent domain to take the land from the farm? It could pose an ethical question. People, that is an ethical question. It shouldn't have ever happened, but it happened. Nobody's investigating him, but they want to investigate a farmer who cannot, even though he's on the committees, he cannot actually sit on the committee while they approve the data center on the property that he would be selling. He can't do that. So there's no real ethical boundary there. The problem, I think, people have a problem with this guy. And by the way, this is Darren Culbertson in Virginia. The problem that people have with Darren is that he was elected to try and help slow this stuff down, to help stop this stuff that he has given up. But his hands have been tied at this point in time. And I think that his story is so similar to so many other farms and ranches. And I think it's one of those things that, like I said, kind of hits home because we all see these things happening. We want to do our best to try and, mitigate it, to try and make it workable for us. But then at the end of the day, this is another example of a farmer or rancher who's pretty much given up the fight in that particular location and said, you know what? Screw this, I'm out of here. I'm done. And you're going to lose a lot of good people in your communities because of this type of stuff. It's the way it happens. But should he be investigated for it? No, he can't even serve on the committee at the time that they approve whether or not the data center goes through. I mean, that's ridiculous. And the fact that, like I said, he's had easements put on his property, the fact that the property valuations have gone through the roof, and he can't grow. He's got a high tax bill. He's losing money on the farm. You can't expect him to stay there. If you want these things to change, then there needs to be a much bigger movement. There needs to be a much larger consciousness, and that's one of the things that I try and do here on Yanas TV. I try and help people open their eyes to these things, see what's going on, give them real world examples, so that because if enough of us, this is the thing, is if enough of us come out and recognize it and do something about it, then you do have the power to make change. But one guy isn't going to have that, and I think that's what he realized. Anyway, guys, that was an interesting story that, you know, kind of hit home for me, and I wanted to share with you. Stay tuned to Yanas TV for more stories like this. Many of you have noticed that we keep wearing these leather patch hats that say "Defend the Right to Farm" on them. These leather patch hats support our nonprofit, Meet My Neighbor Productions. You can get your hat at Yanasa Trading Co. and help us defend the right to farm through education, outreach, and, as we've been doing over the last couple of years, farm relief efforts. So get your leather patch hat and let others know that you defend the right to farm.